Hi there, my name is Debbie, and today I'm here to talk to you about mindfulness and meditation. So, first of all, what is mindfulness? What is the definition of mindfulness? Well, basically, it is paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non judgmentally. And that's the kicker, it's the last part, non judgmentally. That's something difficult for all of us humans to do. So I'm going to repeat that again. Mindfulness is paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non judgmentally. So, as humans, we like to judge just about everything we see, whether we like it or dislike it, whether it's too hot or too cold, or so on and so on. So, that is probably one of the hardest parts for us to overcome, but we can with practice. So, what are the benefits of practicing mindfulness, especially to students such as you guys? Well, studies show that students who meditate before an exam actually perform better than those who don't. So, this is maybe something that you would have to do in the morning before you leave for school. And mindfulness practice can actually increase concentration, and it reduces the symptoms of stress and anxiety and depression. Probably what a lot of us are going through right now during this time is we're probably going through a lot of stress. And so how exactly does mindfulness help us with all of those things? Well, let's look at it biologically first. What it does is it helps us self-regulate. So let's use my hand as an example for a brain. This is my model. This is what I have. So let's imagine that this part is your spinal cord. And your spinal cord is a collection of cells and neurons, and it brings information from the body up the brainstem into the brain. Now, if I unfold my model brain here and I open it up, we can imagine that this part here, the palm, is the early brain. It's what we would call the reptilian brain. It's the first part of the brain to evolve. And so in early man, this was the first part of the brain that existed for the most part. And when you're a baby in the womb, this is the first part of the brain, the reptilian brain that evolves. So this part of the brain is where the amygdala is contained. And it is responsible for that fight, flight, and freeze response that some of us have experienced when we get stressed out or there's something dangerous that might be happening. And this is all part of the sympathetic nervous system. So then if I bring my thumb back, this is, in my little hand model here, represents the limbic system. And in the limbic system, this is where the brainstem, information comes up the brainstem, and that's where we process and we create our emotions. Also, this helps you to create memory and to feel connected to people, the limbic system. And it's the second oldest part of the brain. Then if I were to close my fingers back over my thumb, this part, the fist, represents the cortex. This is the frontal cortex, the part of the brain, and this is the back of the cortex and the back of your head. Now the back of the brain, the back of the cortex here, it basically is where you make a map of the world. And it's basically your map of the world based on your experiences. And in the prefrontal cortex, this is shaped from all your experiences that you have, and it allows you to think and reflect and to manage and even mention your emotions. So this part of the brain, the frontal cortex, is what develops over time from the moment that you're born, and it basically contains all your experiences, and that's how basically your likes and dislikes and all of that get formed. So based on our experiences and our awareness of those experiences, we regulate ourselves through the prefrontal cortex. So I want to separate a little bit the mind from the brain. So your mind obviously is a part of your brain, but your mind is what takes all of these parts, all the information you receive from your body, the brainstem, the limbic system, the cortex. It takes all of that information and it becomes your awareness. And sometimes our minds kind of go off on their own. Maybe sometimes you've said, oh, my mind is driving me crazy, or I can't sleep because my mind won't stop. So our minds are busy taking in all this information and trying to make sense of it all. And it's the part of the body that integrates all of it, and it's the part where we can use it to reflect, and it's the part where we get our resilience from. And it's also a part that can be changed over time. Obviously, as we grow, we learn. And as we get older, even like me, we can retrain our brains to think differently because of neuroplasticity. So maybe you've heard that before, but you can look it up on Google and research it some more. But we are able to retrain our brains to think in different ways based on our past experiences and try to retrain them to get over fears. So anyway, let's go back to the brain and how if you get stressed out or you are fearful of something, that amygdala kicks in and it starts to release hormones. And those hormones give us that fight, flight, freeze response. And that'll cause us to start breathing more shallow, for our heart to start beating faster. Maybe our palms get all sweaty, kind of like they are right now while I'm making this video. But that's what happens. And basically, we can make an analogy like when those hormones get released, it's creating a cloud over our cortex. And it's making our thinking fuzzy and we can't think straight. And so this is kind of how mindfulness is kind of how you can respond to this and to help ourselves out. So what happens if you start to, well, mindfulness will help you to start calming yourself down by taking deep breaths. So for example, if I'm feeling nervous and frightened, I can just stop for a moment, take a deep breath, and let it out. And even after one breath, I feel better. But you can do this a few times, and what it does is it starts to calm down the amygdala by bringing in carbon dioxide into the body. And that actually starts to calm down that freeze, flight, fight response. By bringing carbon dioxide into the body, slowing down the heart rate, and basically removing that cloud of hormones over the cortex so that you can start thinking more clearly. So basically, it helps us to utilize our cortex more. It clears out those hormones. We can use our cortex to think clearer. And, a lot of times right now, mindfulness is becoming very popular, and athletes, musicians, and business leaders are starting to use mindfulness to help them achieve success and peak performance. So what I'd like to do right now is put this into practice a little bit. So you may be sitting in a chair or sitting on your bed, wherever you're sitting right now. What I'd like you to do is sit in a nice straight posture with your feet on the floor if you can. Even if you're on your bed, maybe sit on the side of your bed, put your feet on the floor, flat on the floor. If you're in a chair, put your feet flat on the floor. Sit up straight. Put your hands in your lap. And we're going to take a moment to do a short meditation. It won't be long. And I would like to invite you just to close your eyes. And if you don't feel comfortable closing your eyes, just put your gaze down to the floor a bit, so you're just kind of looking 2 to 3 feet in front of you, and just relax, and take a deep breath in, breathing in through your nostrils, and then breathing out. And at first, we're going to take some deep breaths, breathing in deeply. So long, deep breath in. Long exhale. Breathing in. Noticing your chest expanding, maybe your belly's expanding too, and then letting it out as your chest collapses. and your belly shrinks back in. And keeping your eyes closed, just returning your breathing to normal. Breathing in through the nostrils and out through your nose or your mouth. And just doing that a few times on your own at your own pace. And now if your mind begins to wander, as all of our minds do, and it's thinking, oh, this is silly, oh, what is this going to do for me? Oh, I'm thinking about what I'm going to have for lunch or what I'm going to do next. Just bring it back gently and return your focus to your breathing. And see if you notice anything in your body. Maybe there's some place in your body where you're feeling some tension. For me, I'll sometimes feel some tension in my chest. So find the area in your body, maybe your belly, your chest, or your head. And imagine breathing into that space. And imagine that there's a balloon surrounding that space where you're feeling any kind of tension or pain or tightness. And every time you breathe in, the balloon expands, filling it with air and creating space around the tension. And as the area around the tension expands, the tension is able to unwind and relax. And just take a few breaths more, breathing into that space. And if your mind wanders with some kind of a thought, just be aware that it's wandering away. And when you catch it wandering away, gently and kindly bring it back to your breath. Focusing on the inhale and the outhale. And I'm going to be silent for just a minute or so. And just continue breathing and refocusing back to your breath if your mind wanders. Where is your mind now? Is it focused on your breathing or is it someplace else? Now I just want you to just wiggle your fingers a little bit, wiggle your toes, and when you're ready, just gently open your eyes and come back from meditating. So, when your school gives you that mindful moment, I think in homeroom sometimes, you might just try taking a few deep breaths during that moment. Most likely nobody will notice, but just take a few deep breaths and bring your mind into the classroom and into the place where you are at the moment. And see if it helps your concentration to just be present where you are, breathing right there in the moment. And maybe it'll help. You just try and see. So thank you for listening. And thank you very much, Mrs. Cox. All right. See you guys later. Bye.